Hi, Emily. Thanks for jumping on a call with me. I am so excited about this Awakened Superhuman retreat that you're offering coming up so soon at the end of this month in February. And I just really want to be there. I want to bring people there. I want people to know about it. I want to get the word out. And in particular, I want people to understand that there's an incredible opportunity for all of us to be moving through transformation and awakening together. And sometimes we get guidance and we don't necessarily see what it is, or we maybe don't recognize how much of superhumans we are. And I feel like you teach this and lead it so well. And I want people to understand and I want to get this word out, like I said. So, for anybody that's receiving this message of us sharing today that are part of my group that doesn't know who you are, could you please share a little bit about you and kind of sort of what brought you to this incredible space where you're guiding people and have been guiding people for years now in awakening?
Yes, and thank you so much for this opportunity, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you. And hello to everyone listening. If I know you, it's great to connect again. If you are new to me and you've never seen me before, welcome to just the experience of coming home to remembering. I know that's Sarah's gift and it's my gift, and we get to do it together and have fun in this conversation as we just lean in on how it is that we can really be of service to you and wherever moment we find you. It's funny, I just saw a cute orb. I always point out when I see something because sometimes the camera will catch it. Like it's not just my human eye seeing it. But so I'm known as the angel coach. And the reason we are talking a lot around awakened superhuman more than what I've done in the past is because there's so many things that are unfolding collectively that are calling us home, calling us into remembering. And it's been happening for a while. So I say it very loosely, but there's just a lot in our physical human experience that are having us like look left and right and trying to identify what's happening, right? It's like sometimes we have this elusive playful concept like, are we really in a matrix? Is this really, it just seems so out there and so um irrational that what's really happening. So that's why we are talking about it more, and it doesn't mean that this is something new. And I know that from experience, all of us are in a place in a space that help us to remember that life is unfolding in many ways that are inviting us to see more. Whether we are fully aware of it or not is where we can go ahead and identify that some people are just feeling it a little differently. So when it comes to the awakened superhuman and why I'm using that term and also why I'm known as the angel coach, because I've been getting taught since a little girl. My first memory, I was around 3 or 4 years old and I had beautiful manifestations of light. Some of you may call them angels, some of you may call them masters, but it can be labeled depending on your history and your background, what feels comfortable. But to me, they were my teachers, my friends. They were, for me, beautiful reflections of what I call God, universe, infinite intelligence. And they've been teaching me all along. And part of the message for me was to help me to know that I was more than human, just like you are more than human. So my first memories are of these teachers letting me know that I was here to remember and I was here to share that remembering with more people. And that part of my remembering was to know that even though I have the frailty of my human body and my human experience, that I was way more powerful than that. And a lot of people ask me, oh, they talked to you at that age in that way. And I said, well, it wasn't like it was like conversation. It was very telepathic. And in the telepathic teachings, what happened is that it was meeting me in whatever consciousness I was in, let's say, but it was an understanding that again, that we and I were more than human. And that's why we're really helping people step into this ownership that you are already an awakened superhuman. It's about you just flipping the switch and already seeing what it's already known and understanding that life is playing in such a way that can help you remember if you take.
Had this trouble yesterday with this high energy and how things are sort of freezing. So just stand by for a second. It was actually we were on a call yesterday and it completely jumped off and then took Emily to another part. There you go. You were frozen for a second.
Yes, you were frozen on my end, so I'm not quite sure how much you heard. I don't know if I should change my internet as well, because I have three of them for that reason. I'm used to electronics acting up. So,
I think
but yes, did I'm not sure how much you heard.
You had kind of gotten to the part where we were talking about, actually, I'm not really sure where it ended off. I just kept talking I was like, to the listeners, I was like, so this happened yesterday with a call and our energy, and we were thinking this might happen. And so, maybe go back to, the people had asked you if you were hearing voices when you were younger, when what you were seeing when you were younger, and then sort of the elements of channeling and how that's developed through the course of your life.
Yes. So as I mentioned, when I don't know how much got missed there, but since I was a little girl, my first memories around 3 or 4, I had these beautiful manifestations of light that would come and teach me. And they seemed and looked very different, like meaning to my human mind, they sometimes looked Oriental, sometimes they looked Puerto Rican, sometimes they looked Anglo-Saxon. It was like a shape shifting of just manifestations of love and light. As I got older, I came to understand that some people call these angels, masters, and different teachers. To me, they were all expressions of what I called God. And I still like to celebrate as that presence and love as source and God as well. But that doesn't mean it's limited to that title. My understanding of things evolved, just like all of us get to experience that. The evolution of my understanding got, um, they want me to say awakened even more through my life experiences. And that included the challenges around my daughter and her medical disabilities, and really getting into a place in which I felt very lost and left behind. Like I went from completely hearing these manifestations of love, guiding me, teaching me, and helping me to know that I was more than human, just like you're more than human. And then life happened where one of my daughters completely disabled since she was a little baby girl. And that pushed me into a state of surrender, a state of unlocking my gifts into a next level that have really offered me the opportunity to be of greater service, not just to her well-being, to my own path, and also to others as well. But part of what I mentioned, I don't know if that got heard, is that the reason we call it awakened superhumans. Did you get that part? Did you guys get that part, or was I frozen?
Yeah, let's go to that part.
Okay, perfect. So the manifestations of light, the angels, these manifestations of love, pretty much have asked me to call it awakened superhuman. And as they taught me since a little girl, is that we are more than human, that the frailty that we experience mentally, emotionally, physically in our human is not who we truly are. These are body suits that we've borrowed for this lifetime and the lifetimes that we get to experience in this human form to navigate being human, to navigate our remembering, to navigate the experiences that this world blesses us with, to create, co-create an experience. So when they actually gave me the name. I'm known as the Angel Coach, and they said you will be known as the Angel Coach, but you will be expanding into awakened superhuman. And the reason it's called awakened superhuman is because we are already awakened. We are already awakened superhumans. And a lot of times we get lost with the idea that I must do this, I must do that. I got to add this to my learning, or I got to do this. It's like all these things, but we are actually already who we need to be. And it's just about taking the places and the spaces required, and taking the journeys required, or taking the inspired actions required that allow us to really awaken to that truth that we are already walking superhumans, remembering who and what we are.
It's so funny. We were just Emily and I were speaking yesterday, and I was sharing a little bit about the Gene Keys prophecy and the human design prophecy, and it was so sweet because Emily's like, I don't know anything about that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so neat because a big part of the kind of founder of that whole system was that in 2027 humanity would be stepping into their awakening. It would be like a birth of humanity, and that humanity would need these ushers, these people that are here that are facilitating and supporting that, like you say, we are already this, but we're in this illusion of forgetting that we're these superhuman beings, and that we're not so much awakening as recalling and really coming to our gifting. And so I would love to know, like, do you find people reach out to you and they're like, I'm not gifted like you, Emily, or I can't channel like you, or sort of have this idea of that it's inaccessible to them? And like, what's your response around that?
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. It happens with sessions. It happens with my coaching. It happens with events. You know, and those are actually, I love all the journeys and experiences and the stories that I get to celebrate with people. But my favorite are those individuals who come, they're like, I want to receive guidance, I want to connect more, I want to experience more of what this is about, but I don't have the gift. It's not inside of me. And it's amazing what we get to see over and over and over, that it's actually thank you. I love that. The angels are saying there is a portal of grace that we have access to at all times. There's a portal of grace that we have access to all times. That portal of grace pulls us into that state of remembering who and what we are. And what happens is that when we allow ourselves to be in spaces and places and in experiences that offer us, the human, the opportunity to lean into that grace, to notice the grace, to be in the experience of the grace, we can't help but realize who we truly are. So I have many, many, many stories in which they're like, oh, I'm very left brain and I don't see anything or hear anything. And then all of a sudden, they're like seeing visions about their future. They're seeing visions about manifestations that are going to unfold if they make certain choices. They see, and actually it's auspicious because I just was texting back and forth earlier with someone who's a perfect example. Very, very left brain, very much outside of this realm. She went because she wanted a ticket to one of my events. And at the event, she saw visions, she experienced stuff. And now she's like texting and sharing how she's seeing orbs moving in her house, right? And she's getting all these clear downloads and insights that are already part of her life and her reality. But her left brain or concept of who and what she was filtering her ability to perceive what was already there. So when people say that to me, I'm like, oh, fun. This is great. This is great. I want to see that part of you, love that part of you, and help you to see that there's another part of you that's in so many ways already dancing in this old idea while having its experiences and waking you up to coming home.
Yeah. Yeah, so beautifully shared. And I can echo that sentiment of I did your event last year at the end of it was like November 2023, right? November 11th of 2023, wasn't it? Is that right? Or
Yeah.
was it 1122? And I wasn't able to attend it in person in Florida, but I did it online. And since then, just feeling that energy and really like feeling into your magic and working with people, I can see how much it's activated these things for me. And over the course of last year, it was a challenging year. It was a dark year. I went through a big digestion of a lot of parts of me that were in this victim story and this old story. But I just want to share with people like that can be part of the awakening too. We can go through these kind of bright phases and these dark phases, and to not lose hope when you're in a dark phase, it sometimes means you're just letting go of everything that was in your way, and that we can tell better stories for each other so that we know that it's possible. We can be bigger embodiments of it so that more people can believe. And the more we collectively hold this, the easier it becomes to start to transition into that right side of the brain, which is intuitive, it's relational, it has this connection to things beyond that the left side, it just can't always go there. And so, learning those parts and understanding how people can do that is part one. But there's also this other part, which is like parts of the earth are activated and they hold this special extra layer of medicine. And I know this about Sedona. I was there 10 years ago. I was there when my son was still like just little. I think he was like 3 or 4 months old. And it kept coming to me. I'm like, I'm meant to go to Sedona. I led a retreat in Assisi in 2023. And then I was in Avebury in the United Kingdom earlier this year in November. And it just keeps coming in. There's these sacred portals and these spaces around Earth that have prayer fields from people, going there and coming to bring their challenges or coming to kind of understand what it is like newer and truer for them. And Sedona really holds that. I'm curious, like, where did that come from for you to know this is where we're going? This is where this part of the earth has got special medicine for people.
Yes, yes. Oh, great question. So every retreat and any event that I host is very guided. A lot of the times, of course, there's practical things around it because I run a business. And the irony is that the angels and the manifestations of light have done an amazing job in making sure that I understand many components of business. So there's a business component to it. Now, I say that meaning that when people meet with me and talk to me, they're like, oh my gosh, this is like so organized. And how did you do this? And how did you do that? I'm like, oh, that's the business side that the angels take care of. But every event is very much, thank you. I love that. They're saying it's ushered. It's ushered by higher consciousness. So there's an ushering that takes place. So what does that mean? That we are invited to meet in certain locations to experience a higher consciousness that is going to move through not just the property or the space we're in, but just collectively. And there's certain, thank you, what their angels are saying is that there's certain focal points throughout our earth, our physical earth, that heighten our ability to experience that consciousness. And when that consciousness is experienced, we can't help but move forward. We can't help but experience miracles, what we humans call miracles, because they happen every day, right? We can't help but experience and witness being part of quantum leaps in all areas of our life. We can't help it. Because once again, thank you, we enter spaces that are, they're saying in Spanish, sagrado, which is sacred, and they carry a certain opportunity, thank you, for that which moves into the collective to be amplified even more. So what happened with this specifically, they did mention it last year for me to lean in and do a retreat. And my human had its own logical thoughts because I'm like, oh, I got my baby. I got a lot of things that I have to take care of business wise. It's just not the right timing. And that's why it's also short notice for some of you who are like, this is a little short notice. It is. So a group of 5 manifestations of light surrounded me. And I was actually taking a shower. And they said, lead them to experience the opening of a portal. So there's an opening of a portal of communication that's happening on February the 25th. And they shared that they were inviting me to lead them, to lead people, individuals, to lead us into the experience of it at Sedona, because Sedona would be a very powerful space and place in which we can really tap into our, thank you, the inherent knowing that is within us, the DNA, the consciousness that is contained within parts of our physicality that awaken more of our experience that we are superhuman. And with that invitation, they said they were going to help us awaken and connect more to the gift of telepathy, more the gift of telekinesis, more the gift of our healing and our seeing, prophetic seeing for multiple momentum so that we know what current momentum we're in and where we need to navigate our human with our focus and our attention to lean into a different momentum and where it is that we are being invited to play a role with the collective movement that we're in right now. So what happens and what tends to happen when I've done these retreats is that these manifestations show up. They always show up. So everybody gets to experience this presence of love. Thank you. They're saying the word love and insight of consciousness move through us. So it moves through us. And I'm really excited about this specific retreat, Sarah, because, sorry, I need to go back to something. Something else that's going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of, they're audibly wanting me to say removals. So it happens every time I talk about the retreat, the movement around here, a removal of those things within us that have been feeling the energy of shame, not worthiness, those things within us that are keeping us in lack mentally, emotionally, and physically, those things that are stagnant. Thank you, because we're repeating certain parts of our old identity, which is not allowing us to experience a new identity. So that's also going to take place. Now moving into, I already forgot what I was about to say, honestly, because they brought me back to that. What was it that I was about to say? I'm asking them to remind me.
We're talking about the location of Sedona and sort of like the sacred portal, which just wanted to add to that part of that question is that there's this planetary parade of 7
Yeah.
planets in an alignment for those dates, and they come into alignment for those dates. Did you know that?
I did not know that. No, I did not know that. By the way, this is always fun to me because people tell me stuff all the time. So every retreat that I have ever done, every one of them, somebody would be like, "Oh, do you know? I remember the one we did in Hawaii. They were so specific, and it literally felt when we got to Hawaii, like there was this, like the whole reality was very malleable. It was very interesting. People felt like we were very like walking inside a dream, and I found out it was a very powerful Lionsgate the day we started. I didn't know. So I tend to find these things out that there is this other part of the reason why those dates are given that it's not logical for me. Like I didn't know that. So I'm so grateful you're sharing that with me. But again, it just goes back to the celebration that when things are invited, there is a cohesiveness to it. And this is not just speaking to this specifically, I'm speaking to all of us. A lot of times we get these invitations, intuitive conversations that pull us into leaning into certain decisions. And we're like, oh, it's not the right time, or maybe this and that. Like I did it. And then we come to realize that there is this cohesive orchestration that is happening behind the scenes, that when we lean in, something more powerful takes over for what is designed to be stepped into on the other side, beyond our doubts and our fears, but what gets really anchored and pulled into when we say yes. And they're very quickly wanting me to say something. So one time I was looking in the mirror. So I've been getting visions since I was a little girl of a lot of things. And I remember I was having a human moment and I was in tears and I looked in the mirror and I said, how come all these things that you guys have been saying haven't happened yet? And by the way, there was good things already happening, but my human was again having a moment. And the voice said, what if you would have said yes to everything? What if you would have said yes to everything? And energy's moving to that, right? It's like a lot of times we try to stay very comfortable in our old identities and we unconsciously try to maintain and recycle what we know versus leaning into what is actually calling us on the other side, that is completely a breakthrough of freedom, mentally, emotionally, physically, all of it. It's like all the needs get met, everything gets met on the other side, but we continue to unconsciously maintain the recycling. So the reason I'm saying this is because when they invite a location and they invite a date, a specific date, and I'm seeing an orb, hopefully that got caught, when they invite certain things, it's very much correlated with a cohesive orchestration that my mind doesn't always know. So when you say that to me, I'm like, oh, of course, something would be happening around those dates. But so I am inviting as many of you to join us in Sedona. Oh my gosh, this orb is amazing. I hope and trust it's coming through.
Good.
Um, it's literally just floating around. And understanding that if you're feeling a pull, please connect with me because I would love to have a conversation with you and invite you. But if for some reason your human doesn't feel is not possible, please take time to lean and experience the portal that is happening on the 25th, February the 25th. Because there's a lot, thank you. There's a lot of, they're audibly saying there's a lot of things coming together, and play with this concept and idea that collectively we are all being invited, like a hand is being extended out, like come home, remember, remember, awaken the gifts that are already part of you and part of your design. Thank you. They're saying part of your design, which makes sense because you do human design, that are already part of your design. And it's actually a lot easier to step into remembering than continuing to maintain your forgetting. A
Mhm.
lot of times we continue to maintain our forgetting, and that's where we're suffering and that's where we're struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, and that element of like there can be a little bit of a willfulness, which is like I'm choosing to go in a new direction and not keep repeating this pattern of this belief that I'm not enough, or this belief that I don't have these gifts, or this belief that, my disease or my challenges or my relationships aren't perfectly guiding me to something better. And that breaking that pattern, I just want to encourage people, like it can be so scary, and I can appreciate how scary it is. And when we just invite and ask and pray in these ways, we can transform so many things. And so if you're getting this sense of like, oh, I feel like there's something here for me, or you found this, podcast or this episode, that's not by accident, nothing is actually by accident. And so there'll be this sort of clear kind of draw in that way. And yeah, to speak about the seven planets are lined up, and I can't remember the length of time, but it's like a very long time since something like this has happened again. So it is an incredibly auspicious time to be working consciously with these giftings. And when you speak about like telepathy and telekinesis and sort of these like strange isms and transforming them into actually, this is something that we're all capable of. What does that look like in transformation? What do people kind of find happens to them in that time of transformation? I'd like to paint a little bit of a picture, for people that One of the things that's sort of shocked me in my own awakening experience is that sometimes those areas where we can have, sensations of the body that collapse or feel obstructed in some way, those energy wheels, or sometimes these past life woundings that we can still be carrying in this life, thinking, oh, I still have this old wound, and it's like, no, you need to land in this now moment where that wound is no longer true. But it can be helpful to have people work with us in the same way that if we were having a baby, it'd be really helpful to have a midwife or a doctor there that's holding space, that's helping us through this transformation, going, keep going, you can do it, keep going. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's new, but you're moving into something that's greater. So, what would you say to people around that sort of process so they can understand what that can look like?
Hmm. It's interesting because I trust that the way they're giving it to me is gonna make sense because of course they're giving it to me. But we are, I love that. We are dual components. We're dual components of light and spirit, is what they're saying. And what they mean by that is that we are walking duality. It's like the yin and the yang. Um, and there's always a part of us that is craving more and is craving the inherent evolution that is part of transformation. It's craving it. It's savoring for it. It's like, I'm ready. I want more of it. And I'm ready to be free. And then there's this other part of us, which is still beautiful and sacred and special. But that's that part of us that also craves the complacency and the comfort that we know, because it's what we know, right? It's what has us feeling safe and has us believing that whatever we're going through, whatever's part of our life, we can manage. We can manage. And this duality that we're in is this, it's a beautiful reflection of why we chose to be human. It's a lot of times we're like, we're fighting, like, why, I'm not coming back on my next lifetime, or it's like, this is my last lifetime, or like, oh my gosh, I would have never chosen this. Like, there's all these things, and we battle and we go through all these moments, but there is this sacredness within all moments. And there is an orchestration that this duality that we are is savoring and purposely, intentionally decided this is the moment. This is the moment that I get to choose between the dualities. What side of the duality will I be in? And what they're wanting me to share, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's fully answering a question, but I'm honoring how they're giving it to me, is that transformation is always inevitable. That's the illusion that we sometimes move into. Transformation is always inevitable. How we experience a transformation is pivotal and very much related and connected to what side of the duality we're in or leaning in. When we're leaning into the duality part of us that is very much in the human and wants the comfort, the security blanket, and the complacency, is like we're waiting for something to shake us awake, to make us uncomfortable, to help us say, enough is enough. I have to change. I can't take this anymore. Or we have an ailment that pushes us into like solidifying that we want a better life, that we must make changes, or unless we want to stay sick or stay unhealthy, whatever it may be. And that part of the duality allows that space for that to occur. And then we have the other part of the duality, which is like understanding that evolution is synonymous to transformation. And transformation morphs itself into the experience of transmutation. Transformation requires the shedding, the burning, the challenge. It requires the taking off, the movement through that which is yucky so we can see on the other side. It requires certain qualities of that. That's why there's a transformation, as much as it requires times in silence, right? For being a cocoon. But then the other part of us craves and knows the power of transmutation. Transmutation is something that allows us to evolve within a moment, within a second. It doesn't require the work. It doesn't require the shadows. It doesn't require the suffering. It doesn't require the letting go. It's transmutation. It reminds us that it's energy and form, and that energy and form can thank you, that's translucent, can shapeshift into something greater and something else in an instant and in a moment. So what I like to celebrate is that the reason they're wanting me to say it that way is because in the retreat, that's what we step into is transmutation, not transformation. When I get to lead these experiences, same thing with coaching and sessions and all these different things, it's like we're leaning into seeing, speaking, and helping you to witness the part of the duality within you that knows transmutation, that knows that you are energy informed, and energy informed has the capacity and the potential to become something new like that in an instant.
Yeah. Yeah, this is how I teach miracles. Is like miracles are actually just a perspective shift. I was going along, I was seeing this world in a limited way, and then all of a sudden I saw the world in a new way, and it's miraculous. Like it's like how could it shift so quickly? And it can happen that quickly, but there's so many parts of what you're talking about which echo the way that I like to teach, and that, that duality tension, like the part of me that longs to say separate and suffering and in this form against these like all odds where I'm struggling to be in this like, infinite being in a limited space. And then the side of us on the other end of the continuum of duality, which is an unlimited being that remembers that we're unified consciousness, that remembers that we're, gods with amnesia that have come here to have a human experience of forgetting themselves. And then within that realm, or what I like to call kind of like game of earth or school of earth, it's that there's a polarity as well. And so yang is illumination. It's consciousness. It's connected to our nervous system. It's connected to our ability to provide wise action and boundary for ourselves within this human growth time. And then there's the yin, which is deep trust, which like moves as like pure potent energy and like is the birther of all elements of ourself. And when we bring them together, we create a third thing, which is this new human, this new experience of ourself in this moment. And we're doing that all the time throughout our life. I used to call it kind of like jumping timelines, or like, I'm like a new version of myself. And now I just realize like, wow, these are just some of the initiations that we move through in our collective remembering and our collective awakening. And it's nice to kind of map, this is a part of our awakening experience. This is a part of our life. We just weren't taught it. We just weren't taught it when we went to school as littles, and we weren't maybe taught it by the church that we belong to, or our experience of like how the word of God was given to us. And so to expand and create a new idea of like what that can look like is just such a beautiful part of awakening. And it's almost can be nice to, as we're coming into our awakening experience, to be kind to one another and remember like not everybody feels good when they first wake up. Not everybody, sometimes we can be a bit growly and snarly and scared in that experience, but that we can hold each other through that. I know I've found this in events and working with people, is that there can be this container that the group brings together too, right? The magic of like who comes on every event builds this weaving of the container of the people that are there too. So that we're contributors. We're not just receiving, we're also contributors to this magic. The transformation, the transfiguration is a big part of the Gene Keys work, is like that we can move through these spectrums of consciousness, and that every shadow or every challenge that we have is really helping us orient to where is the path to be responsive, to be willful, to actually choose. I am the one who is moving this ship forward. I'm not a victim. I came here to have this experience of forgetting how powerful I am, but that's part of the illusion. So to pull that together, yeah, I'm trying to just make sure that I cover all of the pieces of the event. I have one kind of like, it's a burning question I've always wanted to ask you, is I can see that you're channeling voices. I can sense into what it is, but I'd love to know, like, do you hear a bunch of different, like my voice and then another woman's voice or a man's voice, or is it like a group of people, like, or is it just one kind of collective voice that speaks to you? How would you describe that?
That's a great question. So, I feel like I'm still perfecting how to language it. Let's say it like that. Because my understanding of what it is has evolved so much over and over and over. And one of the biggest things, actually, there is a part of me that sometimes has had a challenge at the idea that the guidance that I'm hearing is also just me, right? It's a higher version of me, that part of me that is merged with God, divine source, and universe. And that, in so many ways, all these beautiful manifestations are just another reflection of me, as much as they're a reflection of you and all of us. And I had an experience at Joe Dispenza, and that's what they want me to talk about. But that being said, early on in my journey, it was like, to me, it was God showing up in many different ways, speaking to me. And when I say speaking, it was very telepathic. So it's not like I'm having a conversation like you and me. It's very telepathic, which is also why we're doing so much of telepathy in Sedona. So it was pretty much all these different manifestations of love of God were just very much my teachers, and they would teach me and they would show me. Then when it was guidance just came through and I just responded to the guidance. Then my daughter's medical disabilities had me step into a different understanding of this. And then it became more of me being a very co-creative presence with this voice and this manifestation of love. And what would happen is that this manifestation of love would, again, telepathically speak to me, but I would also recognize how it was morphing and expressing itself through the lens of my reality, through my words, through my experience of life, right? So it's like I, myself, my own requirement of being intentional about my own desires and what I wanted, and that would allow me to experience more of what I call God. I hope that's making sense.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you.
That
Thank
then the next phase of where I'm at now and where we're at collectively and the way they're teaching me a lot is that the truth is that we are very much in a sea of consciousness. And since a little girl, I at times feel like I'm swimming in consciousness because they'll touch me and they'll share with me and they'll say non-duality and and it's as if I could see everything is a river of energy, and I'll see these sacred symbols, what my human interprets as sacred symbols, moving through all things and what looks like molecules of light through all in and all things. And I'm like in it. I'm all things and all things are me. And I have these very euphoric experiences. And what has unfolded from that, and since then, is like when you're asking me what I'm hearing, I'm saying thank you because it's become a practice. I like to say thank you. It helps me stay very grounded for me. And I also am very grateful for the guidance that comes through. But how the voice sounds, it's really interesting because sometimes it does sound like a voice speaking to me, like I'm hearing your voice. Sometimes it's a voice that is merged with my consciousness, and somehow it's speaking to my mind directly before the thought or a concept of a word comes to mind. So it just flows very fluently. And you'll hear me, some people will hear me who've heard me before. It's like I'll say something like, oh, I'm being shown to say a different word, right? So it's kind of like my human has its own limitation and its own verbiage and its own languaging. So sometimes what can come through is very much filtered from my human experience, and I'm being invited and required to think bigger. So then there's a part of me that kind of opens up to even more love and more greatness to be shared in the moment. And sometimes I will say that, Sarah, when you're saying what speaks to me, sometimes I do see huge beings show up, like physically. They look like beings and manifestations of beautiful love. And same thing, they'll speak, and then sometimes they speak as if they're speaking through my voice, and it's like it's coming through me. And sometimes it's like I'm hearing it, I'm interpreting it, the consciousness is being interpreted, and then it gets delivered. But when I was younger in high school, it would take over. So I would actually go to church, and the Holy Spirit is what I called it at the time, would take over, and I wouldn't remember what I would say. I would channel on stage, I would do healings on stage and all this stuff, but I wouldn't remember. But now I'm at a place where I'm like, I want to remember, I don't want to forget. It does happen sometimes in retreats where that consciousness just takes over and my human identity is just not there. So that has happened. I don't
Yeah.
know if I answered your question. That kind
Yeah.
of what was a winded
Beautifully.
answer to your question.
Yeah, and it's just really neat. Like, I want to share for people that do know the gene keys. I got to take a glance at your chart yesterday, and you have this in your purpose sphere, which is like the way your body experiences its light is the 12th gene key and the sixth line, which is essentially called the channel. And so it's like quite physically this
I
manifestation
know that.
acoustic, and it often has this sort of acoustic sort of way of, it could be sound, it could be like a voice, it could be toning, it could be a lot of, different expressions of it depending on what you're connecting into. But it like literally in the chart like connects you to grace, and it's called, it's like this, like the channel of the angels is really what it's called, and you have it in your purpose spirit. Of course, I was like, of course she does. Like, why would I think it would be any other way? It was so neat to see that. But that, because it's a sixth line, like sometimes what can happen, and I just want other people to understand this too, is that your gifts are always going to come in exactly when they're meant to, and sometimes they're time released intentionally slowly so that you can integrate that, how powerful that gifting can be. And with sixth line people, you might have this gifting on board and know in your being, like, I'm a big deal, I'm here to bring a big message, but I'm scared and I don't really trust myself. That voice is showing you, like, have patience, it's coming. People will show up to support you. You are held in this. Like, keep listening to that. Don't let it pull you down into this like non-believing, because it's so easy to resign ourselves and be like, it's not true. My vision's too big, or people don't get me, or I don't belong. Like, that can really show up. And I identify with how painful that can be. But it's possible. It's possible for everyone. Even if you don't have this marking in your chart, or even if you don't have that, we all have all of them. And we're all here to collaborate and helping each other find them in this collective awakening experience. So let's give people some details. February 23rd to 27th in Sedona. If you go to theangelcoach.com/Sedona Feb 2025, or just the Angel Coach, you'll be able to find it on your website. So theangelcoach.com. You can see the house, that dome place is the dome place, the place that you guys have, yeah, this incredible, like, domes are like, Adobe as well, right? Like, bring ourselves into earth and be in this like cocoon, this womb for healing and awakening in this like this space at this sacred time. So yeah, tell a little bit about like the event and the location, and that there's, a couple options. There's shared rooms, there's private rooms, there's only a few spots left. So now's the time. If it's a yes for
Yeah.
you, now's the time. Yeah, go ahead.
So thank you. I love that you're bringing this up. I have to share something so cool. So I actually feel like we've entered a dimension where this house did not exist. I have to share this. I've been doing retreats in Sedona for over a decade, 1 to 2 a year. Whether it's private, because I'm doing private immersions, or I'm doing group retreats. Sedona, I go at least once or twice a year. When they gave me the date, I looked up for the 20, I was starting the 25th because my human, I have my logical stuff. And what happened is that on the search, this house kept coming up on different dates. So all the other houses coming up on the search as an opportunity were the dates that I picked, but this house kept coming up and I loved it. I was like, I love this house, but these are not the dates I'm putting on the thing. This doesn't work, which was on the 23rd to the 27th. I originally had the 25th through the 28th or the February 1st. So it was the same amount of time, just different dates. And I was like, how is it that I've never seen this house? And they playfully, by the way, because this is how they interact with me, but spirit, divine, universe, infinite intelligence is the most joyful, playful, blissful experience that I can convey. By the way, this is my experience of it, by the way. And I thought they in a playful way said to me, well, what if this was just created for this space? What if? And I was like, okay, so I changed my whole plans and I made it for those dates. And I love the lady who's helping me host this, meaning like she's the one who manages the property. And this place literally has been designed for what we're about to do. I asked them, I wanted a river nearby. It has the Sedona River goes through the property. So we have access to the water, private access to the river, which is, I've never experienced this. Like, I usually take people to the water because it's such a beautiful component to the experience. So we have the water. This dome has beautiful rooms, very sacred space, multiple meditation rooms, like literally has been designed for what we're about to step into. And it is considered to be in one of the vortexes in sacred land in Sedona. So it's like it encompasses so much of what we are going to awaken to remembering. And I honestly feel like this place manifested, like it was designed in another dimension. I was not in this dimension. It was in our dimension. And then this dimension crossed and it was brought so we can be there. And actually, I've said to the lady, I'm like, this is the only place I want to use moving forward. This is where I want us to be moving forward. But it is on February the 23rd. We start on 23rd evening, and then we're going to go to the 27th morning. And we are going to be blessed with an amazing chef who's going to be cooking us dinner. Lunch isn't included, and it's because we're going to be exploring and adventuring. So there is a chef who making us dinner, and then there's going to be a morning spread in the morning where you can enjoy and cook whatever it is you want to for the mornings. And we are going to have a breathwork facilitator. She is the best. She's been going to all of my events and she's been actually leading the breathwork. Very, very powerful. Leah is one of a kind. She is her own walking master as well. And she's going to be guiding us and she's going to be offering just the same portal of that remembering through breath. Very powerful. We're also going to be doing other things that are a little surprised that I can't share much about it, but we're also doing ATV rides. We're going to a very beautiful Shamans Cave. Not a lot of people get to go because you do have to go through an ATV. So we're going to be spending the day on the 25th and the Shamans Cave, unless the angels guide something differently. My human already knows that we're going to be taken somewhere very special on the 25th. And we're going to do hikes to these very beautiful sacred lands. Now, everything's very guided. People always are like, oh, can I see the calendar and the schedule? They are the calendar and the schedule. I literally, the night before and the morning of, I ask, where are we going and what do you guys want us to step into? And they guide everything. The thing that's amazing, and that's why we have so much fluidity. We go into flow state together as a group. And we all start having these amazing miracles, visions, and experiences that are very extraordinary, definitely not ordinary at all. People start getting visions, they'll get audible experiences, changes in the body will happen, and we literally will start seeing things show up in our human experience that are very outside the normal. I don't even know what I'm getting chills just talking about it right now as we're saying this. So I don't know what else we're going to see in the skies and what we're going to see on the land, but I just know that it's going to show up so much love, so much love. I am honored and inspired all the time how much love. Thank you. They're saying pivotal. Love that is pivotal to our time right now. That helps us to pretty much break free of any boundaries that have us doubting, You know, we're going through a lot of changes collectively, and we've been doing it for a while, and we're going to see a lot of it right now, but we're really going to help you remember what you've been getting trained for and how your superpowers are already inside of you. And now you are designed right now to take it to the next level, not just for yourself, for the people that you love, and also collectively for those around you. So we're doing that. And let me see, anything else logistically? I'm asking them to remind me if there's anything else. Oh, we are considering, this is not for sure, but we are having many people ask us if we could do anything for the kids as well. So we are considering extending 1 to 2 days for those people who have kids and want to experience something as a family. So if you're interested, let me know, because right now we're identifying, we have 3 families that are interested so far, and that's also an invitation.
Yeah, that was a part of how you and I connected over it because my son's autistic and I was there with him 10 years ago. And it was one of those kind of like sort of sweet rememberings of like, right, you know, this advanced human nervous system that he has and sort of what it needs and sort of elements of that. Are parts of like our kiddos helping us, you know, our kiddos are helping us orient to this new expression of humanity. And yeah, as we move through this collective awakening together, and I like to keep speaking about this, it's like we're a fellowship in this. And sometimes it doesn't feel like that. And sometimes there can be a lot of fear of differences and othering and these elements, but that elements of the land, you know, like you were speaking to the river being there, rivers are able to carry and move these parts of us, these limiting beliefs, as well as these ancestral charges that are not ours to deal with in this life. We can let them go, and the river can help with that. So everything that you're speaking to about the land supporting this event and just how, you know, if you don't want to go and you can't make it, or all of these sort of reasons that are showing up for you not to go, still go look at the site, still go check out the webpage and just see like this magical space that you're hosting it at is just, oh, it's so miraculous. And I have this like really strong feeling of needing to be there and longing to be there myself. And all of that magic is still coming together, but I just really want to support you getting this message out and that the right people will show up for it. And I'm so excited about that. We're coming to close to our time boundary, and I'd love to know, like, do you feel guided to add anything else? Is there any processes or anything that you want to include for people as a part of this? And you maybe, yeah, just tune into what that could look like, or any final things that you want to bring.
So I know that we're going to be learning telekinesis, and I know it's interesting because honestly, I have a lot of experiences myself, and these conversations are very normal in my family just because it's not me. This is not my work. This is who I am. And I know that when Sarah and I were identifying whether what's the exercise, and they are showing me, I was like, are you guys going to do a telekinesis exercise? But they're actually showing me something more about seeing, around seeing. So they are inviting, and this is not something I can guide right now, but I'm going to give you the exercise. They are showing me that they're inviting people to find a wall. So like, for example, any wall, it could be a white wall, a cream wall, it could be any wall, but it has to be plain. There can't be like, you know, two-tone colors. It can't be like a frame on the wall. Just find the wall. And what you're going to do is that you're going to look straight ahead. You can sit down or you can stand up and looking at a spot on the wall. And you're going to go ahead and take at least, thank you, 10 to 20 deep breaths, like very deep, like as slowly as possible. And why you are doing that is because you are activating your body's ability to be fully in the moment. Fully in the moment. We've been designed, we're so blessed as humans that we're taking thousands of information, every moment and every time. So it gives us a chance to just be fully present and have us focus on that spot. And thank you. And they're telling me you're going to tap on your chest and just say, I'm choosing to remember who I am. I'm choosing to remember who and what I am. Sorry, they're correcting me. I'm choosing to remember who and what I am. And you're going to say that at least 5 to 6 times. They're saying tapping on your heart space. Thank you. You're going to tap on your heart space and tap on your forehead. They're showing me. And then you're going to actually tap back here. And they've done that inside my sacred garden with the women's. They're saying there's some points here that can activate stuff. So it's like right, see if I can show it on the video, but it's right here. And just do like that. I'm choosing to remember who and what I am. So you're going to do it heart, here, and here. Thank you. And then you're going to go ahead and thank you. They're saying be in observation, meaning that you're just going to observe the spot and just be an observant, be a witness. You may notice something right in front of you. You may notice something peripherally. You may notice something in your body, but just notice what you notice because all of us have been designed to filter the experience of consciousness through our human intellect in different ways. There's not one right way. We're blessed that we get to be like rainbows and we get to experience consciousness in many different ways. So you're going to sit there and just be in the experience of it. And then, thank you. They're audibly saying that after observing it, once again, decide, I'm willing to remember. It is safe to remember. I'm willing to remember. It is safe to remember. I'm remembering now. I'm willing to remember. It is safe to remember. I'm remembering now. And then you can once again do the tapping. And then you're going to go ahead and they're saying observe once again to see if there's any shift or you notice more. And they're saying, thank you, regularly. So they're saying if you could do this regularly for at least 4 to 5 days, some people are going to notice things right away. Like right away. You're like, oh my gosh, I could see energy and I could see stuff, or I'm feeling this, or I'm feeling that. Some of you, it's going to take the 4 or 5 days or the 6th day. They're saying some of you are going to go to 6 days, but do it regularly, at least once a day. That's not going to take long. It's so interesting because I share it in my community and I share with people all the time, even in sessions and coaching. It's like, if they're giving it to you, do it. Do it. I can't guarantee because I can't do that legally, but I know from experience and from working with thousands of people, that when we follow the inspiration being offered and delivered, is because it will work for you. It's whether or not your human is committed to the experience.
Yeah.
When I say committed, doing this simple exercise we just gave you.
Yeah.
I've never given that before, by the way. So
Yeah.
I always get excited because they always give unique exercises based on who's going to be hearing, meaning that what they just gave you is unique to you who's listening and
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah. Wow. So beautiful. Thank you. I'll be doing it. I'll be landing in it. And the planetary parade thing it started at the end of January and it's another planet's coming into alignment. It was 6 planets at the end of January, and then this other planet is kind of, I think I can't remember what it one is, and I won't even say. So there's 7 planets in alignment
Wow.
for those dates. Yeah, so
Oh my gosh, I got chills everywhere.
it's a season like between now and then. What a perfect season to be practicing this process and to be really stepping into it and to start activating your energy body now. And thank you. This was so lovely. I'm so excited for this event, and I'm so excited for all the people that are going to be joining and all of these next expressions of activated superhumans that get to be a part of this world that we live in moving forward. So thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you. And thank you for trusting me to speak to your community and your tribe and you. So thank you. And if you're seeing this, I am grateful. I like to believe that we're each other's answered prayers. So thank you for being my answered prayer. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be an answered prayer for you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. And thank you.